What's up, everybody? This is Daniel Tejada here from Straight Up Growth with my longtime friend, fellow Peruvian in the Amazon space, Daniela. How you doing today? Why don't you introduce yourself to the folks here?
Doing well. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on the new podcast. My name is Daniela Bolzmann. I'm the founder of Mindful Goods and LaunchReadyListings.com, where we help over 100 brands every year optimize their listings and their storefronts for Amazon. And we are an Amazon Creative Services verified partner.
Oh, nice. Congrats. That
Yeah.
partnership is new. That's fun on the creative side.
Yeah.
Really fun stuff. To start, I think what got you here, running the businesses that you're starting. Obviously, Amazon's a super niche place to begin with, or at least it used to be. Now it's a little more mainstream, content, even more niche down there. And I know that you're quite the expert, but what got you there? Because I'm sure you didn't go to school to do Amazon content. So love to hear.
No, my schooling was in business. Specifically, I minored in entrepreneurship.
Nice.
Went on to have a tech company after that, after working for some startups. And after that, I went through like a mini early midlife crisis after exiting my tech company.
Nice.
And I was trying to think of, what I wanted to do next with all the marketing knowledge that I had. And one of the ideas that I had in my life design project at the time was starting my own brand. And so when I went through that experience, I actually was very fortunate to work with my family's business, who has a CPG business. I had approached them about, getting their products on Amazon so I could learn the ropes through them.
How early was
that? I was so thankful they said yes. Gosh, that was over 5 years ago.
Okay.
And we're talking about like a multi-million-dollar business. Like, I mean, at the time doing at least like $10 to $30 million in business nationwide and Whole Foods and everything. So the learning curve was actually really steep for me as an experienced entrepreneur, as an experienced marketer. And as I was going through these pains with them, I was interviewing agencies and trying to understand who could help in the scenario, and realizing how expensive these agencies were, charging $10K a month or more, and realizing that how does a single solo brand owner do this, or a very small team do this? Because here I am with all of this knowledge of how to do these things, and it was even hard for me. So after that experience, I ended up consulting and helping other brands, and started Mindful Goods as a full service Amazon agency at the time. And we went through a bit of growing pains in the first 2 years, trying to really understand where our market fit was. And ultimately, after a couple of years of kind of pulling my hair out, I realized where our sweet spot was on the creative side, helping brands really stand out with their content. And now we're pretty much known for bringing the D2C look to Amazon.
It's awesome. Yeah. And I can attest firsthand. I've seen the quality of the product, and I really like that, that statement you used, bringing the DTC to Amazon. That's smart there. That's very clever. There's a lot of really great info on what you dropped. So I want to unpack that a little bit. Sounds like you had an entrepreneurial mindset right off the start there. You started sort of had your own tech company. Sounds like even going into something like Amazon. What got you there? What do you think got you, really thinking in that headspace, or is it just something that you've, kind of always had?
So I've always been pretty much a serial entrepreneur. Like, I remember being 5 years old and, I had a book when I was at that age. I was a total bookworm, and I found this book, I don't know where, probably at a garage sale. And it was like 100 ways for kids to make money. And I would literally go through every day and pick a page of the book and try that to make money. And so garage sales became my thing. I used to take all my toys and teddy bears outside, and I used to sell them on the street. And then I started selling candy at school to my friends. I would bring candy from Peru, and then they had never tried it before, so they wanted the candy from Peru.
Nice.
So yeah, that's always been ingrained in me. But I feel like at some point after exiting, I had a mini like identity crisis, right? Like, I had started to identify as the founder of that last business. And I was like, wow, if I don't have that business anymore, well, then what am I? Who am I? And then I realized, that was a very different type of business that I was starting up with co-founders, with investors, with, VC. Like we were in a completely different environment in my 20s. And in my 30s, I realized, as I'm rebuilding and trying to figure out what my next chapter is going to be, I realized I didn't want any of that. I didn't want investors. I wanted to basically I didn't want an office. We had an office in Chicago with 20 employees sitting in our office. I didn't want an office. I didn't want to have to be in the office. And as I was looking at the future of work, I was realizing nobody wants to be in the office. Like we all want to live that Instagram dream of just picking up our laptop and going wherever we want and working wherever we want. And at that point, when I was ideating on what my life design was going to look like and coming up with different business models to start testing, that was something that I knew that I wanted to do. So once we started Mindful Goods, it was after like the first 2 years of like pulling my hair out that I realized that the other thing that had to happen in that process was that I had to stop trying to learn everything and specialize in everything. And that we just had to have a singular focus if we were going to be amazing at what we did. And ultimately, that's what has led us to have content as our superpower.
That's awesome. Yeah, really, really cool to hear. I used to sell candy in high school. I remember I would go to Costco and I would walk around, I'd buy the like box or whatever, and I'd sell them for like $1 or whatever, like a unit, I remember. So definitely get that. I guess that's, yeah, a common theme from people in this space.
But then later you did like door-to-door sales, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like in college
Oh, yeah.
or after college?
I did. Yeah. So I went to Pepperdine, good school. I'm totally chilling. And then no one would even like call me up for like an interview on anything. And so the only company that did was a multi-level marketing scheme thing. And I was literally selling makeup door to door. Me and Chris Pratt were in the same MLM. Apparently, I saw him on SNL talking about it. So that was pretty funny there. I like that you almost worked backwards into trying to figure out what the business was that, kind of based on your overall goal. I think that's really an interesting thing. I think like for me, it was like, I did advertising because I watched Mad Men when I was in high school and I thought that looks cool. And that's literally why I chose my major. Right. But I think it's kind of a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves to like hit a certain box, right? Or like, it's like this ultimate life-changing decision to figure out what you want to do. But I actually think figuring out your end goal is a lot easier to start to work backwards to figure out what you need to actually get to that piece there. I know like for myself,
exactly.
Like when I started doing Amazon, it was like 2016 and I was doing like AdWords and more traditional digital marketing. Honestly, was looking for another job and like, I just liked the job posting that I'd seen at Quiver. I thought it was hilarious. So I was like, let's see what this is about. And they told me I could be first at it. Right. And like that for me was like, there would be like, do you want to be one of the first people to do Amazon ads? That kind of helped me. Cause like when I was working backwards, I knew that I wanted to have like an agency, right. Or kind of own my own business there. But I needed to learn a skill set. Right. And a big thing for me was, okay, I'm going to like become an expert at AdWords, move up the ladder there, and then eventually like teach other people to do it. This to me was a pivot though, right? And it was really more like I was more locked into the end goal where like my eyes really lit up when I kind of saw the opportunity. Just in the fact that like, I think this thing is going to continue to grow. There's not a lot of competition right now, but really becoming a domain expert is like the biggest thing I tell everybody. Like just learn a skill set. No one can take that away from you too. Like you can lose your job, but if you've got the skill set, you can go get another one, right? If you
totally
get really good at it, right, you can start your own business on it. There's pros and cons, I'm sure, that come from that for sure. But yeah, really, really
I think even within our own agencies though, if you look, like I've had so many agency owner friends that have come to me and they've, we've had very like humble talks and they've just been like, how are you holding it all together? How are you keeping your niche and keeping your focus and not offering everything? And how are people, like even actually competitors to us have asked us, like, how are people even paying your rates? And I'm just like, well, that's what it costs to work with us, and we're not here to service everybody in the world. I wish we could, we're here for a very small percentage of brands that want to be selling on Amazon and want to look amazing. And they want to convert, and we have a certain amount of domain expertise. And it's like the same thing with you guys. You're not offering full service. Maybe now you are, I don't know. But when you and I first talked, you were very, very singular focused on, we are an Amazon ads agency. Like that is our superpower. And I love that. I love that we can I love it when an agency has a superpower, because if your team is focused on just that one thing every single day, and they have a mindset to always be learning and growing, you're going to get better and better and better and better, and that's what makes you one of the best, and that's I think that's probably what caught the attention of Amazon when we showed them our examples and how we were invited to the creative services program. That's a very small amount of agencies are in that program now,
Yeah, no. And it's not because there's not competitors in your space, right? Or things like that. Content is, I would say, probably one of the first types of services that was created in your space or in the Amazon space is around content there. So being able to come out, from behind, which I think is also there's more established brands, and really create yourself, and the pricing that is appropriate, I think is also a really huge accomplishment. And I think a lot of brands or people, they kind of get scared at that point, right? It's you should really know what your worth is, right? And I think it's one of the mistakes we've made in the past, right, was pricing down to way too aggressively, right? Because you're hungry for revenue, right? Or you're hungry for business. But the thing I've learned over time is the right business and the right revenue matters a lot more than, the quantity, right? And ultimately, for us, we don't do any advertising for our business, right? We've got a lot of word of mouth, we've got a lot of referral, and that happens because we do a good job, because we're pricing appropriately, right? It's why the richest man in the world owns Louis Vuitton, right? It's because people are willing to pay a premium for the right customer, right? And it's what you said there. So I think that's a huge piece, and it's I think in the early days it's hard to know that, or really, I guess it's easy to know it, but it's harder to put into practice, especially when you got to pay for people's salaries and everything else. It can get scary for sure.
Yeah, I think that I went through that in the beginning. I was taking every client I could take on, and my first client that I ever worked with, I didn't know how much to charge, and I have such victim mindset when it comes to money that I charged $500.
Yeah.
Not monthly, forever.
Oh, wow.
Pay me $500 and I will just keep helping you with Amazon stuff.
Wow.
And part of that is, what? I was at a place where I was hungry for the money, but I was more hungry for the knowledge, right? I needed to get as much knowledge as possible, as fast as possible. And I knew that a lot of these people that were coming to me, they didn't know anything either. And they just didn't want to learn it. They just wanted to pay someone else to learn it for them. And they couldn't afford that much from the people that I was working with, right? So in that aspect, I was able to say, okay, just pay me something. I'll go and learn the things that we need to learn, and I'll help you, right? And I did that for the first year, a good year of just hustling and helping.
Yep.
Year two, I was like, F the hustle. I don't want to even know the word hustle anymore. Let's change our words that we're using, and we need to start figuring out. Year two was figuring out, okay, of all the experience I got in year one, what are the things that people need the most, and what can I offer that I know that we can be the best at, or that we can start being great at, right, over time. And ultimately I was like, okay, well, it seems like people want these three things. And you know what? For year three, I didn't even put it on the website yet. I had it basically kind of hidden as a back end offer. If people didn't sign on to a retainer, I would offer them this one-off creative service.
Nice.
Right. And then guess what happened? COVID hit. And everyone needed out of their retainers. Everyone was freaked out that the world was going to end. They didn't want to be paying hand over fist retainers. Yep. And so basically all my retainer clients wanted out of their contracts so they could stay cash liquid. And I was an entrepreneur. So I was like, I get it. I want to stay friendly with these brands. I want to keep helping them. but I totally understand where they're at right now. The whole world is freaking out. And so I basically just like ended the contracts I wanted to end. And in 30 days, I was like, what the F am I going to do? I took those offers that I was offering as back end offers, and I just published the page on the front of the website, and my business like tripled because now all the brands who were just like, oh my God, all the stores are closing, we need to get on Amazon as fast as we can. Yep. I have the perfect service for them at the perfect time.
Yep. It's funny how that works out, huh? Circumstances sometimes just push you in the right direction. That's quite the pivot, but obviously it's worked out for the better. So that's pretty rad. I think one thing that's really important that you brought up too is like the learning piece. To me, like I treat learning as a currency, right? And it's like, there are certain instances, and I've done this since the first agency I was at, where we've taken on deals sometimes that like aren't, monetarily valuable for us, but we make money from them in other ways, right? And like sometimes it's like the learning piece has been absolutely massive for us. Like there's been, I know in my early days, I took on a really, really big account because it was 4x the ad spend on a monthly basis on anything I'd ever hit, right? Like I never really had a truly unlimited budget for a category. And it was the first time that I was going to be able to have like a basically unlimited budget in a CPG kind of brand, right? And so for us, I was like, I'll absolutely take that deal. Like, I don't care if we really make any money on this, because that expertise, right, to be able to handle that sort of budget is honestly how I've learned a lot of what, I've done here today. And so I think that's always huge. There's other things too, like there's certain like even potential within the partners themselves. Like like one of our smaller clients here has given me a significant amount of business, right? And they're usually to like ideal type of clients for us. We come in super, super warm.
I love it.
And it's not something that like we fully expected, right? But we're like, at the end of the day, we like to work with good people. Like these are good people right up our alley, and we're doing good work together. Mm-hmm. And eventually it's paid off, right? So I do think understanding your worth is really important, but also understanding that like short-term dollars are not always the best representation of what you can get, right? Or the value you can get from someone.
Totally.
So I think that's been super helpful. Let's see. So we've talked a little bit about some tricky situations. What's been something, let's say now for your most recent business, now that you've run it for a couple of years, that you knew going into it, or you wish you knew ahead of time, maybe things you would have done differently?
Oh man, that's a good question. So we're 5 years in now. Gosh, I have to look at when we started because we might be approaching 6.
Oh, wow.
But things that I wish we would have known. I mean, one of the things that's been a big challenge for our business is like that I keep trying to remind myself as well as an entrepreneur is that we have a certain domain expertise in what we do, right? And it's okay over time to limit what we're doing because we used to offer everything and now we offer this one thing. And actually, the more we tighten it up, the better we are at those things. And so when we do something, we have to figure out a way to do it well that we know is the most likely way that is going to help the client in the end, but is also aligned with where the clients are financially and their budgets as well. So like, that's kind of my filter as I'm trying to decide whether we're adding a service, building a service, letting go of a service, or outsourcing a service, right?
Like, just to set the stage, like, let's say they've got a pretty large catalog, right? But like 10% of their catalog does the majority of the volume, right? Could you pitch them on a deal to do content for everything? Yes, but maybe it might make more sense to focus just on like the items that are really bringing in the revenue for the business, right? On the short term, is that kind of?
Yeah, well, that's one thing. I'll say another thing that's actually really challenging for us is that we know that our benchmark right now is around like improving sales around 40 to 150%. Sometimes we saw one the other day. I was looking at the data and I was like, oh my gosh, sales went up 266%, like crazy, right? Like those are amazing. And is that the average? Yes. Is it going to happen to every brand? No. And so when it doesn't, that's really challenging for me because I'm the type of person where I want to get in there and figure out like why, but there's so many unknown factors with Amazon that are outside of our control. And so as much as I want to take ownership of it, it's not something that I can control 100% of the time. There's so many other factors, right? We can only do as much as we can do based on the knowledge that we've earned and gained over time. And that's probably a hard thing for me as an entrepreneur to let go of and not take it so personally, because I want every client to have these like crazy, amazing results, right? Do you have that same, like, how do you handle that? Because you guys are in advertising, and that's like,
no, and it's
everyone thinks that they're just going to make $1 million in a month of advertising.
Exactly. And there's like always factors, right? Like it's like for you guys, like you're impacting conversion rate directly, right? But like you guys could improve conversion rate a significant amount and someone could drop in traffic because they cut their ad spend, right? And that wouldn't equate to the same sales, right? And it's hard because it's not something you can directly control. I think just seeing it enough times, right? I've learned, because I've definitely had the same issue where it's like you want every single client to succeed, 100% of the time. But sometimes there's just factors like you just can't do anything about. Like I had a client where I'm like, look, we're growing 200% year over year every single month, but you guys haven't stayed in stock for the last 4 months in a row, right? We've been out of inventory, right, on these items, and we'll just shift one item to the next one, right? And you guys keep trying to fix it, but like the client wasn't happy, right? And it's like at the end of the day, I'm like, is it frustrating? Because I know that this is an account that we could absolutely, crush, and we are crushing. Yes. But, we did the calls with their inventory people, right? They went through 3 different inventory managers during our time working together. Clearly the gap is there on that end, right? And there's things I could have done to try to like, giving them free service or things like that, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, I can't fix something that's broken, right? And I think that's one thing where it's like, you need to like learning to identify when that is, right? I think is something that it's definitely happened to me. You mentioned it's been an issue. I've heard other folks like, even like, brands selling into retail, right? Sometimes they get to work with a great or a huge name like a Walmart or something like that, but it ends up being like trying to please that company ends up hurting their business in a lot of other areas where it's not even worth doing, right? And so I think understanding the value things bring and what that, how much is that worth of your time, I think can definitely be important. So I'm glad you learned it, but it's one of those things you wish you knew, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an ongoing learning process as an entrepreneur, right? Is learning how to not take those things personally, and I'm just, one of the things that I reminded myself in a moment where that did happen is that I have an amazing team. And if there's something to figure out, we're going to try to figure it out. If there's some way to help, we're going to try to help. We're going to make it better. But at the end of the day, like we're not like miracle workers. We can only put forth our best hypothesis on what we think will succeed. And, hopefully that's going to succeed for most clients. And thankfully it has been,
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's like, it's proven, right? You've done it over time. And it's like when something works, right, you're just going to continue to stick with it and continue to improve and reiterate on it. And I think the other thing that's important that you've been talking about throughout this presentation or chat today is like the simple fact of like not getting distracted by all the other things that you can do, right? I think that's a hard thing, but it's like, we really focus on like Amazon growth, right? Like that is our thing. And like, there's so many other, like I know other marketplaces, right, are really interesting, but like, really like when I've run the analysis there, it's not that complex yet. So like, we don't focus our time there just because like, I know we could, and I know we could build a whole business around it, right? But then it starts to take away from our ability to really be as good as we are on the growth side for Amazon, or like Chat GBT, whatever, that Chat GBT thing that's all over the place, right? It's like everyone's talking about it. I'm like, all right, how distracted do I want to get with this thing, right? Here, right? I'll see if I can incorporate it into my business potentially, but I still need to focus my efforts, at least most of my efforts, on what's really valuable for our company.
Absolutely. And Amazon alone is changing so much all the time. So it's just, just little things that like we need to update the team on, they're happening all the time. And, it's that's the thing that we get asked all the time if we do creative for Walmart and other places. And we just don't. And but that's again, what makes you so great and what makes us so great at what we're doing is that we do have that focus.
Yeah, no, it's been, it's definitely a blessing, but sometimes you definitely get distracted for sure. I definitely get distracted at least.
Well, Clubhouse was a big distraction in my mind.
Yeah.
I was on the Clubhouse train for a minute. I was like, I gotta get
funny.
on this Clubhouse thing.
That's so funny. I actually already forgot about Clubhouse and I was on it hard for a while too. That's so funny. Yeah, these things move and groove real quick out there. So let's see what else I have for you. I'd say, like, I think being an entrepreneur, definitely, obviously there's a lot of potential benefits from it, right? You've been able to like live the lifestyle that you set up as a goal for yourself. I know that you are, we're doing this chat and you're by the beach in Peru, which is not the worst there, but I'd say, like, there's, at least from my end, there's definitely a lot of stress that can come from time to time and things like that. So how do you manage, running your business? How do you manage doing it remotely there and still being able to, enjoy the lifestyle that you'd like to enjoy there?
Meditation.
Nice.
First and foremost.
Every day, or how often do you?
I try to do it every day, at least like a minute a day if I can, some days, but I'll do it like 5-10 minutes on average.
Nice.
Even like I kind of force myself to even just sit there and go through the motions, even if I can't feel like I can meditate that day, just because I know I need to keep the practice up. But that's one thing. The other thing I think is, I think just, I'm not a 20-year-old entrepreneur anymore. So I've kind of been around the ringer a little bit and realized that, like I'm not seeking opinions from other people anymore. And just, I'm okay with growing little by little. And that's really what's gotten us to where we are today. And because of that, I'm able to live my dream life right now. And I'm just unbelievably happy. And I do think it's possible for a lot more people. It is scary. It is, I think the first 2 years I was just like, if I could just make this amount of money, if I could just make this amount of money. And I was terrified that, like, at any moment I felt like someone was going to pull the rug out from under me. And you have this like imposter syndrome. And at some point, a lot of that goes away for the most part. And you still have these like stressful moments where you get frustrated, but if you just remember to keep that mindset of like everything is figure outable. And actually I heard this analogy that's really great. And I think about it all the time. It's like every time you hit a new milestone in your business, things are naturally going to break. Like they're just going to break. Yeah. You have to just know. And if you're not having those moments in your business, then you're not growing. And maybe that's okay for some people. Maybe they hit a certain milestone and they're just like, good, I'm cool, I'm cruising. And that's the thing I think nobody talks about enough, is that it's okay to hit your financial milestone and just stay there and be completely content with your life. We don't all have to have these like multi-million-dollar businesses, like get your number. And like, it just so happens that my number just keeps moving every time I hit it, I don't know why that happens. It just does. But it
I know too.
Getting me get motivated again. Right. But once I heard that from one of my coaches, I was like, okay, I need to shift my mindset and just know that like little by little, I'm over here, I'm this little engine with my team, and like things are going to break. And I know my team is smart and we're amazing. And we're going to figure it out. We're going to find the solutions, and then we're going to go to the next level, because that's how business works.
I think that's really just such a great way of looking at it. I think the first 2 years are scary. Like you mentioned, it's like, can I afford this? Like, whatever, I need to get to my number, And like, there's definitely some stresses that come there, but I do think it does, like, once the business is running and okay, like we're in year 3, boom, like we're actually doing the revenue that we want, right? We're growing, like things break, we fix them. I think that's another big important piece. Cause like when things used to break, like I used to like really be freaking out. Right. And now it's like, I'm still obviously frantic to fix the situations, but I just, like you said, like whenever I hit a new milestone, whenever things feel too comfortable, that's always when I'm like, all right, problems are coming in the next month. Like I just know it just like always happens, and then they come and then we get better from them. Right. I think that's the other thing.
Right.
And then I think
I would say another common thing, sorry to interrupt you, but another common thing I see with friends in my peer group, some that are more successful than others, the ones that are lesser successful, when I look at the like way that they run their business, a lot of times they are still in the solopreneur boat and they're not inclined to delegate or figure out an offer that they can replicate over and over again. And I don't know, I guess I was just seeking those resources early on when I started this business of trying to figure out like, this isn't working. Whatever I'm doing in this first year is not working. Like, I need to figure something out because I can't keep, it's not sustainable doing what I'm doing right now. So finding a path to creating a repeatable, profitable revenue for your business that doesn't stress you out is ultimately should be everyone's end goal, because this life is absolutely possible for most of us if we just, you know, look at it a little more long term and really focus on the things that matter in terms of like all the things we mentioned today, you know?
No, I think it's spot on. Even if like, I mean, you said setting goals, right? And it's like, okay, like not everyone, I think it's great. Like not everyone needs to have this multi-million-dollar exit, you know, story thing, which I think naturally people get inclined to do because you see it, right? You go on LinkedIn and it's like, oh, this person's doing this or whatever. And it's like, oh, well, maybe I should be able to do that, right? And I think one is just understand what your actual goals are, right? Because like the bigger the number, the more stress it becomes, I'll say there. But even if you want a lifestyle business and right, and you like the solopreneur thing, I think that like creating a scalable, repeatable business is still important, right? Like you don't have to do everything yourself just because you don't want to have a lot of overhead, right? There's definitely some really creative ways you can create a business that's scalable where you're not where your success is not entirely dependent on you showing up to work that day. Right. Like I've got buddies that have like, you know, they're like a 1 or 2 person shop, but you know, they make the money they want, they work the hours they want, but if they're not working, like they don't make any money. Right. And that's the situation. Right. Like
I heard this thing that Alex Hermosi said on his podcast recently, and it like shifted for me. Where he said like, he's had so many friends of his like sell their companies for hundreds of millions and whatever, right? Like you hear about these stories and you're just like, I want to be one of those.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, like you sell your business and then what? And then like for most of us that live these lifestyles, the business is our cash flow. So what, you're going to go start another company and go through those painful years for a couple more times, or you're going to go buy back that cash flow in another business that you don't really have any domain expertise in, or you're going to go start a competitor business that you already had. Like what are you going to do with that? You know? And so I was actually thinking about that as we have been approached over the last couple of years for acquisition, and like, do I want to sell? I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to have to buy back my cash flow or buy back my freedom. Like I'm pretty content, you know, like when things are good.
Especially if you can get the business to a place where, you know, you don't have to be doing that much like, then it's like steady cash flow coming in, you fix the problems from time to time. Like that's another very valuable, very comfortable, you know, lifestyle that you can kind of set up for yourself.
And the fact that we're like, one of the big things for me was how I built the company remote. So all these women that we work with, I work with 100% women all over the world, all amazing freelancers that have their own other businesses as well. Like we kind of built this like incredible little network of female entrepreneurs that help these brands that like these brands couldn't even afford to work with every single one of us, even if they wanted to, you know, like it's incredible. And like you can kind of create your own little dream scenario of how you'd want your business to be.
Yeah. And it's like, if you're happy going to work every day, then why seek out the next thing? You know, like that also could be pretty comfortable for sure.
For sure. Well, the question is, can I work from here every day? If I sell the business, I don't think so.
Oh man.
Maybe.
Yeah. Pretty good incentive to keep going.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, you know, I don't want to take up too much of your valuable time here today, but it's been so nice having you on board and really just getting to learn your story. I like to end with, you know, if you had like one piece of advice to someone that's just getting started, what would you say they should start? What's a big area of focus for them?
I would say I'll recommend a book, which is called Design Your Life. And that for me was one of the most pivotal books, because it gives you an actual roadmap that you can do an exercise every chapter and start to figure out what the heck is my dream life? how the heck do I get there? What do I do next? And I think the authors of the book, actually, it was like the #1 course at like Berkeley or Harvard or somewhere. And they turned that class into a book, and there's like an online course for it. And it's incredible. I think it should be like required reading for every single human being. So they realize that they can actually live the life of their dreams if they have a plan, like with steps that you take action towards.
That's awesome. I got to write that one down for sure. Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that one out. And then, where can people find you if they want to reach out to the queen of content herself?
Let's do it. mindfulgoods.co or launchreadylistings.com.
Awesome.
Actually, launchreadylistings.com has a full training that shows you our 3-step process for listing optimization.
Oh, cool.
And that is ungated and for free. So go check it out. And then if you want to see if you want to see examples of our services and what we're all about, you go to mindfulgoods.co.
Awesome. Yeah, highly recommend. Daniela definitely really knows her stuff. And I don't say that about everyone for sure. So love it. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate the time. And until next time.
Thanks for having me.